Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out and competing with the WNBA Finals game. I imagine we may have a few more friends join us this evening, but I'm really glad that you could join us for this session of the Come Together Music Project. My name is Shaka Mitchell, and I am the founder of this project. I'm going to beckon someone in at the moment. Don't be shy. I want to acknowledge a few people really quickly. First, one of our board members is with us, Andrew Pappas. Andrew, thanks for being with us. He is a partner at Osborne Maladon here in Phoenix, so thank you so much for being with us. I want to also give a thanks to the Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law for hosting us, specifically Austin Pruch has been fantastic to work with, so thank you, Austin. Vice Dean Angela Banks has also been a champion in getting us here. There are a few organizations that co-sponsored as well, so the Student Bar Association, Law Students for the Arts, the Aspen Institute Civil Society Fellowship, and Arizona Talks are all organizations that co-sponsor. Music helps us develop new relationships and deepen existing ones. Right? Music helps us bridge divides across socioeconomic, generational, ideological lines. Music helps us come together. So let me give you a little background on how this started. So in 2020, COVID hits, and I, like many of you, realized that after some time, I actually missed the company of other people. It wasn't just lives that were lost in COVID, but some of our human connection was lost, right? At the same time, there was increasing division happening in the U.S., right? Polarization was at an all-time high. It continues to be at an all-time high. I'm not sure if you knew this, but 51% of Gen Z avoids going home for family holidays because they want to avoid fraught conversations with their family, 51%. So that was sort of the backdrop when, along with some friends, we started getting together at a buddy's house for something we called Song Swap. And the concept was pretty simple. We would send around a few categories beforehand, a few song categories, and then each of us would send in links to one person with our song for that category. And I live in Nashville, so there's always kind of a song in the air. There's always music in the atmosphere. So that first time, I remember one of the song categories, it was a song that's a guilty pleasure. And let me tell you, you will learn a lot about someone when they tell you what kind of music they listen to when no one else is around. Right, so I found out that among this group of middle-aged, football-watching men, nearly everyone was a Swiftie. Yeah, so another time, one of the songs, one of the categories was a song that I can't stand. And this one was an easy one for me. A song that I can't stand was this. Montel Jordan, This Is How We Do It, has always been, in my estimation, one of the corniest songs on the planet. Well, here's the thing. We're listening to these songs and we're sharing this music together, and as fun as it was to hear new music and to learn about this, it didn't take long to realize that something more powerful was happening. We were actually learning more about one another, right? So when we had a category that was a song about family, I heard my friend Dave talk about what it was like to send his baby girl off to college. When we had a category that was about a favorite instrument, my friend Matt talked about his relationship with his father. Right? We were doing something that went far beyond music, and so I thought, well, with a little intentionality, we can do something really powerful here. I believe that music primes us for that deeper connection, and even in an adversarial context like a court of law, that empathy is really valuable. So I hope this session shows you how we can use music to do just that, to deepen connection, to maybe restore some of the trust that we've lost as a society, And we're going to do that. This session is going to be equal parts storytelling and music listening party. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. If you are so inclined to clap your hands, that is great. If you feel like the spirit moves and you need to get up and dance, that is even better. So feel free to do that. Now, without any further ado, I want to introduce our august guest today. So first, Judge Andrew Becke is one of the newest member of the Arizona Court of Appeals. Having been appointed this year by Governor Hobbs, prior to this role, he spent 17 years as a trial lawyer. And joining him is Arizona Supreme Court Justice Clint Bolick. He's nearing his 10th year on the court, having been appointed by Governor Ducey. That's after a career as the co-founder of the Institute for Justice and also the creator of the Litigation Center at the Goldwater Institute. So thank you both for being with us. Really, really excited to get going. Okay, well, I'm going to sit down here. Let me explain the format really quickly, and then we'll jump right in. So what we're going to do, I will set up the category for us, for our guests, and you will tell us what song you picked and who it's by. Then we're going to listen to a little clip of this, and then we're going to come back and just chat about it. We're going to learn a little bit about why you picked that song and so forth. So for the first category, one of the things that music does is, music is great at helping us recall certain places, right? I bet that there are certain songs that when you hear them immediately, it takes you back to a certain place. There are songs that I hear and I can picture where on a certain stretch of interstate I was on a road trip, for instance, right? I bet that's the same for many of you. So for this first category, I asked you for a song that reminds you of where you grew up. And so for this one, why don't we start, Judge Becke, with you. Tell us the song you picked and who it's by.
I picked the song Small Town by John Cougar Mellencamp.
All right, here it is. So Judge Becke, why'd you pick that song?
To be clear, I don't particularly like the song, but it is very evocative. I grew up in a very small town in northern Arizona called Cottonwood, which is in the Verde Valley. And at the time that I grew up there, it was about 7,000 people. My father was one of the very few doctors in the Verde Valley, and that was my whole world. Was this little community of 7,000 people. It was before the internet. It was largely before cable television when I was growing up. And so all you had was the people around you, your community, your neighbors, and you spent a lot of time with this very same group of people, and everything that was going on the television and seemed so immensely far away. Of course, I grew up, eventually went to college, got to see a little bit more of the world, but after law school, I ended up returning to a small community. I now live in Prescott, Arizona, which is what I thought was a big city back when I was growing up, but is only about 50,000 people. And for me, having that connectivity with a smaller community, walking down the street and knowing people, having people know you is a very powerful thing. That's what I grew up with, and that's what I've returned to now that I'm a little more grown up.
How surprised do you think the young, small town kid Andrew Becke would be to know that he'd be on the Court of Appeals?
Astonished. Yeah, I don't know that I ever, when I was a kid, I don't know that I have ever had any particular ambition to go anywhere outside of my immediate confines. When I went off to college at the University of Arizona, when I started, that was, mind-blowing change for my life. Yeah, I don't know that I ever thought that being a judge, being called the Honorable Andrew Becke was even achievable, but here I am.
Yeah, we're not going to ask. Yeah, no, I was going to say.
But it's on my letterhead.
You go back to all of those other kids in the small town and tell them, I told you, now you've got to call me Honorable and see how they react to that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Clint, what about you? What song did you pick?
So,
There you go.
and welcome everybody, and thanks so much for doing this, Shaka. So I chose Allentown by Billy Joel.
All right. Let's listen to it. Okay. Tell us about that.
So it really, even just listening to that part of it is extremely emotional. I grew up in New Jersey, not Pennsylvania, and yet Billy Joel's song about Allentown really reminds me of my hometown of Linden, New Jersey. My dad was a welder with an 8th grade education and lied about his age to serve in World War II. We lived in a factory town. The only difference between Linden, New Jersey and Allentown, Pennsylvania was we actually aspired to live in Allentown. We went there every summer for the Pennsylvania State Fair. But Linden was also mafia infested. It really was what people think of when they see The Sopranos. And my dad, I think of so many of my classmates who still live in Linden. There's a line in there talking about how if you're lucky, you can get at least as far as their old man got. And it really is a pretty stagnant place. But my dad put a huge value on education. He wanted his kids to do better than he did. He knew that education, as you can relate, given your work, would be the catalyst to move his kids up. And so when I hear that song, I think of my dad, and I think about where I grew up.
When you were younger, thinking about your time in Allentown, thinking about how you were raised and the values that your dad, as you're speaking about, we're trying to inculcate, what did you think was kind of the ticket out or up? Was it education? Was it athletics? Was it music? What was it?
Definitely wasn't athletics for me, nor music. When I was
your
little,
son is here. He got a lot of athletic genes, I think.
Yep, yeah. I would say he was born to play basketball. In addition to being a nuclear engineer, which I am super proud of. But when I was really little, I woke up super early in the morning to watch the garbage men come and pick up the garbage. So initially that was my thought, and that was one of the most coveted patronage jobs in the city of Linden, was working on a garbage truck, in part because they had pensions and all of that. But I became very interested in politics, and really saw that and education as the way out of Linden, New Jersey.
Yeah. Thank you both. I think that as I mentioned, music is it's really sticky. Right? It's one of the things I love about it. It's a quote that says that every memory has a soundtrack all its own, and so we can see how music helps to take us back to a place, but it can also take us back to a time. And so I wanted to explore another dimension. So we're going to explore the dimension of time a little bit. So I asked Andrew and Clint this time to think about a song that takes them back to law school, just such that we would be here. Thought it might be appropriate. I think we've got a few law students in the visiting. Okay, thank you. Yes, put off the midterm studying.
Yes.
They're not going anywhere. Thank you for being with us. But ask for a song that takes you back to law school. So, Clint, actually, why don't this time let's start with you.
So this is embarrassing because I chose this song. Well, not the selection so much as the fact that I selected this song a few weeks ago, and I chose a particular album, but I can't remember what song I chose from that album.
Okay, I will tell you. I'll show you.
Cheat sheet.
Okay, so this is "Shine a Little Love" by Electric Light Orchestra.
Okay. Okay. Please tell us about this.
So during college, I was a huge fan of ELO, and I think they are probably, to this day, I think they are the most underrated classic rock band perhaps ever, and I'm so glad that they began touring again. But the year that I graduated college, they went disco. And to say that most ELO fans were disappointed is a massive understatement. But they were really good at disco, just as they were at classic rock. And when I went to law school, I needed disco. It just really brings your mood up. It's you don't have to think about it. You just enjoy it. And my wife, by the way, loves disco, and she loves this album, which was called Discovery.
Oh, we get it. Yeah, we see the
yeah,
big-
exactly.
Yeah.
So this was just a pick-me-up
Okay.
album. I played it all the time, and it helped get me through law school.
That's amazing. So, when I was in law school, they is when they invented Red Bull. So I think that was our equivalent, and so we had a lot of that. Yeah. Okay. It's gonna be a slight pivot then. Andrew, why don't you tell us what you picked?
So as you may have guessed, Justice Bolick and I went to law school at a different time. I went to law school, I started law school in 2004, and the song at that time was Yeah by Usher featuring Lil Jon and Ludacris. So,
Peace up, A-Town.
Okay.
okay.
Tell us about this.
So,
Obviously,
I don't know that I put,
small town Arizona. This makes total sense.
I'll just say that it was indicative of the time. 2004, perhaps. We're a few years removed from 9/11. We're not quite to the financial crisis yet. It was a time of boundless optimism. Things were going well, and the music we listened to was a bit frivolous. Didn't necessarily need to have a lot of meaning to it. Lil Jon had his moment in the sun where, everywhere you went, someone was yelling, yeah, okay, like everywhere you went. And there was very much that way during my 1 year of law school. I just remember, we'd go out to the bars and whatnot, and this song was always playing. Everywhere you went, the song was always playing. So I don't know that I have any sort of like deeper meaning. I don't know that Ludacris or Usher or Lil Jon really were trying to say a whole lot other than, let's go out there and have a good time, and yeah. So thus my selection of Yeah by Usher featuring Lil Jon
And Ludacris. Yeah, fantastic. No, thank you. It's a good reminder, especially again for the students who are in the room, that it doesn't have to be all sort of toil and trouble for 3 years, but there can be some bright spots.
Yeah, we both picked Ludacris songs.
Yeah, absolutely. It would. I mean, suggestion, if you will, from the from the bar. You might consider, if you just really agree with a particular litigant in front of you, you don't even have to write the whole opinion. Just okay, send it back. I think they'd appreciate that. Just a consideration. No, thank you both. Just so a little bit more, and this is for both of you. Would love to hear. And maybe this will come up a little bit later as well, so don't scoop yourself. But what was the impetus for going to law school in the first place?
As a matter of fact, law was my second career. I was actually a restaurant manager, living in Seattle, married with 2 children. Was lifting something heavy one day, lifted with my back and not with my legs. ended up rupturing the bottom 2 discs in my lumbar spine and never got all the way better. And finally the doctor said, you're never going to do a job where you have to stand 14 hours a day anymore. You need to come up with a new career. I'd taken 1 class in law at undergrad. It seemed interesting. I took the LSAT. I luckily did very well. And there was a professor here at ASU, Michael Birch, who was the director of admissions at the time, and he was looking for sort of non-traditional students. And here I was, married with 2 kids on workers' comp, looking for a new career. And luckily he admitted me. We came back to Arizona, and I guess the rest is history. But I don't think it was not on the horizon. It was life gave me lemons and I made lemonade.
Yeah, thank you. Clint?
Well, I had no plans to be a lawyer until my senior year of college. And I didn't know any lawyers. I thought it was possibly the most boring profession on earth, seeing lawyer shows and all of that. But three factors combined. I had planned to be a school teacher, and in fact completed all of my training. I have lifetime certification in my home state, and to go into politics. But and again, Shaka, I think you will relate to this. Interning in an inner city high school made me think, oh no, I can't accomplish what I would like to accomplish one student at a time. It has to be systemic change. The second, interning for Orrin Hatch on Capitol Hill, and seeing that almost no one was focused on principles and policy goals. It was all about themselves and their own personal advancement, and everything was shades of gray.
Thankfully,
So
that's
I'm like,
changed a lot since.
yeah, it has. It's gotten so much worse. But just like Andrew, I took a class in undergrad constitutional law and just fell in love. And fortunately, I had no mentors whatsoever, because any of them would have said, Clint, no one gets to be a constitutional lawyer for a living. So I went blissfully off to UC Davis for law school, which probably was as far from my own personal philosophy as any law school in the country. And I got there and I'm like, what are these other subjects? Torts, contracts, but I did defy the odds and became a constitutional lawyer, and oh my gosh, I have not regretted that for a split second.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you both. I mean, it's helpful to remember that there are many different routes, to come to the legal profession, many different routes that, frankly, I think all bring with them experiences that I have to think are valuable in your own jurisprudence and in your own legal careers. So yeah, thank you. It's great to hear those different stories. Okay. Yeah. Place, it can be tied to time. Music, I think, can also be a tool. Music, as we just heard, in fact, it can get us really hyped up. Music can also have a calming effect. And for this category, I asked you to think of a song that you'd associate with a hard time, a difficult time in your life. And Andrew, why don't we start with you?
I picked That's What I Get by 9 Inch Nails.
Here we go. Tell us about that.
Sure. Nobody falls in love like a teenager. And I think, well, I hope that's a somewhat universal experience. When I was 19 years old, I fell deeply, passionately in love with a woman who we had one of those unhealthy relationships, not abusive in any way, but just codependent. I was not mature enough. She was not mature enough. And then one day, lo and behold, I came home and found her in bed with one of my roommates. And it was just the most shattering experience of my young life that the sense of betrayal, the sense that I'm never going to get over this, the sense that I'm never going to love anyone ever again. And of course, you're 19 years old, and now that I'm this age, I look back on it, and of course, that's ridiculous. But it was, I went into a real depression for a year or two after that, and just had sort of really unhealthy attitudes about others that it took a lot of time and effort to get past and to grow out of, I guess I would say. And that was, I think, I've had some difficult points in my life, but that was the one that really resonated for me. And I listened to this album, this Nine Inch Nails album, I don't know, 1,000 times, probably in an unhealthy amount, because the entire album is about a woman who destroys his life. So thus my selection of That's What I Get by Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah. Trent Reznor was not. He was not from the Electric Light Orchestra
No.
school of good feelings and happy times.
We often said, I want to meet the woman who effed Trent Reznor up. She must have been really something, because he went on an incredible creative tear about how his life had been ruined by this woman, whoever she was.
Yeah. It is, unfortunately, that kind of heartbreak is one of those near universal experiences. Now, you mentioned you've got kids.
I do.
Are they old enough yet to have experienced this kind of?
They are. My oldest is 30. He's married, and we just had our first granddaughter a couple of months ago. Within a week of being appointed to the court, as a matter of fact. And my other son is 24 and engaged, and he's going to be married in the coming year. So yes, my kids are well beyond the point where I had my 9 Inch Nails phase, we'll call it.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, Justice Bolick, tell us what you picked.
So I picked what I consider to be one of the greatest songs ever created, and that is Kashmir by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, but can I share two things before you jump into this one? First, Kashmir is 8.5 minutes long. So when this song came through, I thought, I don't know what I'm gonna, and it is in the pantheon of rock songs. And I thought, I don't know how I'm gonna do this justice, but we certainly can't sit here for 8.5 minutes. Yes. So that was challenging. The second thing is that, I'm of the era where we got a little too creative with our first email addresses and our AOL screen names and whatnot. And so my first email address is ledshaka@hotmail.com.
Oh my gosh.
And to which my sweet mom said, Mom, just think the best of you. And she said, she read it in a different way, and she said, is that because you're a leader? And I said, no, Mom, it's because I rock. She was like, oh, the eye roll, Okay, so it's Kashmir. Tell us about the difficult time that you associate with this.
Well, and actually two. So you alluded to one earlier, and that was COVID. And, what a depressing time of our existence. And, I tried to do everything I could to lift my spirits and the spirits of those around me. I performed a significant number of weddings during that time, especially with our justices of the peace price gouging weddings and all of that. I'm like, if you come to my house, my front deck, I will marry anyone who wants to get married. But and I had a very adverse reaction to the vaccine, and so that really sent me on a downward spiral. And one day I was going to the grocery store, and that was a dystopian experience during that time. And en route, Kashmir was playing on the radio just randomly, and it just brought me out. There was just something so dramatic and inspiring about this unbelievably powerful song. And then a few years later, I encountered a retention campaign that was mounted against my colleague Justice King and me. And knowing that for a year I was going to be enduring just constant barrages of personal attacks. So one of the things I did was to put together a playlist so that every time I got in my car, I would be surrounded by music that I loved. I can tell you, there were times when I listened to that 8-minute song 4 or 5 times in a row, and by the time I get to the court, I am revved up and totally ready to go. So I owe a huge debt to Robert Plant for creating this unbelievably inspiring music.
That's fantastic. Well, I would, on behalf of Robert Plant, I would love to invite you in. Yeah, that's right. Invite you to Nashville. You know, he lives in Nashville.
I did not know.
Yeah, and he lives in Nashville, and I think he moved there when he recorded that album with Alison Krauss. And you know, as is the case in Nashville, sometimes you'd just be driving around and you'd go, "Who's that kind of scraggly old guy?" Oh, it's Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin walking down the street, and it's pretty amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. Well, for our final category, I thought would be appropriate given the roles that you two now sit in one case for nearly 10 years, in one case for a little over 3 months or so. But I thought it would be interesting to hear how you each think about the concept of justice. And so I asked you to think about a song that you associate with that concept. And so why don't we start down there?
This was a really hard one, really hard one. But the
Great song, though.
And I'll have to explain it once we listen to it. But the song I selected was "Love's Gonna Get You" by Boogie Down Productions.
Great. Boogie Down Productions, also led by KRS-One.
KRS-One.
Yeah, if you don't know. Okay, tell us about that. It's a great story that's told.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a very evocative song that really is just a tragedy. It starts with a young man in junior high, middle school, who is a B+ student, as the song tells us, but is living in grinding poverty, has no economic opportunity to do anything, and so the neighborhood drug dealer comes around and gives him $200 to do something, and of course the song ends as you would expect it to end, with people being shot and killed and that kind of thing, and for me it is a story of the limits of justice that judges can provide. I can provide you with a fair hearing. I can ensure that your right to counsel is respected. I can ensure that you're not compelled to be a witness against yourself. But the true injustices in our society, poverty, mental illness, drug addiction, are not things that we as judges can fix. There's something that society as a whole has to do something about. So the true, maybe not the true, but many of the injustices that we see around us in our society are not injustices that our justice system or that our judges can fix, but really things that society as a whole needs to fix. And that's why I picked this song.
Thank you. I know it's only been a few months, but is that something that you were especially sort of struck by when you stepped into that role, kind of the weight of, it sounds, I mean, it's my language here, but it sounds like you're pushing us to appreciate kind of the limitations of, say, what the court can do, and legal remedies can only go so far. Is that something that you just felt when you got in the role?
I think I certainly became more keenly aware of it when I took the role. No one, I think, is more aware of the injustice in our society than judges, because we see everything, and in many cases it's some of the worst stuff. Criminal cases, juvenile cases where we're taking children away from their parents, just awful things. And I can give them a fair hearing. I can make sure that the law is followed. I can give them the rule of law, but I can't truly, as a judge, fix the underlying problems. That's for someone else to do. And I guess it makes me keenly aware of how important the role is that I've taken on, but also the limits of what I can really do to help.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's great to have someone who's so thoughtful in the roles. We really appreciate getting kind of a peek behind the curtain. Okay, Justice Bolick, why don't you take us home with your choice?
So I too really struggled with this one, as my friends Madalena and John can attest, as I was really agonizing over this. And then finally I came up with a song that I had the wonderful serendipity of hearing last Saturday night performed by the man who wrote it. And that is Blackbird by Paul McCartney and the Beatles.
It's a lovely song, so tell us why you picked it.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. And again, there were so many songs I thought about, but this was Paul McCartney's ode to the civil rights movement, which he wrote at the time. And I think it is a beautiful song, and it's a song of hope with its roots in injustice. And the case that inspired me to go to law school was Brown versus Board of Education. And kind of the other side from what Andrew was saying, by and large, our nation's history has been that we settle our disputes in court, not on the streets. And so many, seeing a case like Brown and realizing that courts do have the capacity to vindicate individual rights, even when the cause is not widely popular. So I thought this would be exactly the right song. And then also realizing that we were going to be seeing Paul McCartney right before this, and hearing it the other night and knowing that we were going to be playing it tonight. And I'm like, yep, that is the right song.
Well, I loved it. Thank you so much for sharing that one with us. Yeah, it is a fantastic reminder, and I mean, lawyers are biased because certainly, but it's a reminder, and I appreciate the reminder of the power of the courts to sort of model civil discourse, model what it looks like to strongly but respectfully disagree with one another. I mean, we see that in courtrooms around the country every day. Our hope is that we see it outside of courtrooms as well, modeled in such a way and sort of put out there into the world. So really appreciate that. Before I give some closing thoughts and let folks go and go see the finals basketball game, if you're lucky enough to get tickets to that, would love to just give you both, if there's anything else you'd like to share. And again, thank you so much for being with us. But I feel like I've got a bunch of appellate court judges here, so I should give you the last word, not me. I'm not used to having that control. But Judge Beck?
I just want to say thank you, Shaka, for putting this together. I think Justice Bolick and I probably see the world a little differently, but one thing I have noticed as I've joined the Court of Appeals is that there are 18 colleagues that I have, and they have come from different backgrounds and different political parties, and they see the world a different way. But they are all genuinely good people who want to do what's best for this state and for this country. And there's a surprisingly large amount of collegiality on our court. And I think that that's so important. It's so important both that we model that behavior outwardly, but that also genuinely, I can walk into any of my 18 colleagues' chambers and have a conversation about literally anything. I wish that our society as a whole was a bit more like that, and hopefully this project that you're working on will take us one step closer to that goal. So thank you for doing this.
Well, thank you. One more question for you. What's something that you heard from Justice Bolick that surprised you tonight?
Well, to be honest, I did not know much about his background. I had no idea that he came from New Jersey, that he came from, we'll call it modest means, I will say. And the only Clint Bolick I've known is the Goldwater guy and the Supreme Court justice. So I just assumed that he was high flying for his entire life. But
Not the one looking at the sanitation truck
That's
coming
exactly
by
right. That's
aspirationally.
exactly right.
Yeah.
But I think that's
important.
it's also indicative of what I said a moment ago, is that we have on our courts people from all different backgrounds, and yet we can all get along and hopefully try to do what's best for the rule of law and for our state and our country.
Absolutely. Okay, Justice Bolick, final thoughts, and then also what's something that you heard?
So I'll start with that, and I am just so freaking jealous that you grew up in Cottonwood. And I really hope that, and I very much get this impression, Andrew, that you never take that for granted. It's just a magnificent place, as is Prescott, and I really think of that as real America, and so it was nice to hear that story. Just some concluding notes. Is this the first time you've had two judges?
Yes.
So I do think one of the things that dispositionally for me, I just love this job because of the civil discourse. My wife is in politics, she's in the state Senate, and I often compare and contrast our days. I have served on the court nearly 10 years and have never once exchanged a crossword with a colleague. Tomorrow, Chief Justice Timmer will probably kick my butt over something, but by contrast, my wife doesn't have a single day where she doesn't cross swords with a colleague, oftentimes in her own party. And I see those as very, very different things. We have gotten so far away from civil discourse and politics, and that is a huge problem in our society. And when I say we don't settle our disputes, we settle them in court, not on the streets, I don't know whether that is going to remain true for very long. And that absolutely terrifies me. So I'm glad to be in a place that models civil discourse, and that where we try to reason to the correct decision, even and especially when it's a decision that we would not make based on our own policy predilections. So I'm glad that you had the two of us, and I hope that the courts will always be an example of how problems in our society should be solved.
Yeah, thank you so much. If I can guarantee that we get everything from Boogie Down Productions and Usher to Led Zeppelin and the Beatles, then yeah, we'll have every judge in the country on. This will be a fantastic project. Well, y'all, I wish that I could say that I, created a product or some special formula that was on display today, but really, I do believe that this is the power of music. I think that music can do this. There's a reason that music is a part of every known civilization. There's a reason that music is a part of every faith tradition, right? Music just binds us together. And so in our, polarized environment, what we did this afternoon and evening, I hope will continue to serve as a model for reestablishing these connections, for building trust with our neighbors, even our adversaries. And so, at the very least, maybe the next time for you Arizonans, if you read a decision from one of these panelists that you disagree with, you can just humanize them a little bit and know where they're coming from and know that they are, I believe, pursuing a concept of justice that is indeed laudable. if it helps, you can just imagine Judge Beck sort of writing his opinion with Usher in the background, and maybe that'll help. I don't know. If you are interested in following the work of the Come Together Music Project, we're on YouTube. There's some episodes on YouTube, and increasingly those will be coming out over the next few weeks, months, and hopefully years. We're on Spotify and Apple. You can listen to the podcast. You can find us on Instagram. And please certainly connect with me after this if you'd be interested in carrying the project forward. So thank you again, and good night.